Coronation Street tease that Amy had been suspicious from the moment Tracy suggested a family tea party. The sudden domestic civility didn't sit right. This wasn't Tracy's style, unless something beneath the surface was itching to erupt. But curiosity and obligation worked their magic. Ken arrived with his newspaper tucked under one arm, Steve already on his second pint before tea had even been poured, Cassie reluctantly present, but obviously itching to leave, and Amy, arms crossed, gaze sharp, wary. The living room had been dressed up like a magazine spread. Tracy had arranged everything just so, mismatched china, crustless sandwiches, cucumber slices aligned with surgical precision, and in the center of it all, a sponge cake that looked far too perfect to be bought from any shop on the street. Her smile was disarmingly calm. Too calm. "Thank you all for coming," Tracy began, her fingers laced tightly. "I know this is a bit unusual, but I thought we could have a nice afternoon. Like a proper family." "That's a new approach," Steve muttered, casually pouring whiskey into his floral teacup. Tracy ignored the jab. Her eyes drifted to Amy. "I've done a lot of thinking. About us. About the arguments. And I think it's time we approach the divorce like adults. For Amy's sake." Amy's eyes narrowed. "Since when do you care about making things easier for him?" "I've made mistakes," Tracy replied. "But I'm trying to fix them." Ken cleared his throat. "This wouldn't have anything to do with your latest adventure in the States, would it?" A flicker crossed Tracy's face. "No. This is about family." But Amy caught something else, an unspoken moment shared between Tracy and Cassie. A glance too sharp, too fast. Something unsaid. As the tea cooled and Steve's grip on the whiskey bottle loosened, the conversation began to unravel. "If this is about money," Steve slurred slightly, "you're not getting the house." "I've talked to my solicitor." Tracy rolled her eyes. "It's not about the house. Or money. I just want peace." Cassie snorted. "Since when?" Amy leaned forward. "What are you hiding?" Tracy froze. "I'm not hiding anything. You throw a tea party to talk about maturity. That's not you. What's really going on?" Silence followed. Even Steve shut up long enough to notice. Finally, Tracy exhaled. "All right. There's something. I wasn't going to say it, but since you're pushing, I've decided to sell the shop." Steve blinked. "You're what?" "It's time," she said with strange certainty. "Time for something new." Amy looked stricken. "You love that shop. You fought tooth and nail for it. Why now?" Tracy glanced away. "Because I'm planning to move." "Where?" Ken asked, voice clipped. "Back to the US." Amy's voice sliced through the room. "With that art dealer?" "I never said that," Tracy said flatly. But her silence confirmed it. "You were going to leave," Steve exploded. "Without telling us. Without telling Amy." "I was going to tell you. This is me telling you. I wanted to do it with some class." Amy stood, eyes flashing. "You think springing this on us over scones is classy? This is you running away. Again. You say you care, but you always vanish." Tracy's veneer cracked. "I'm tired, Amy. Tired of the rows, the judgment, the constant tension. I need a fresh start." "And what about me?" Amy shouted. "You expect me to be okay with being left behind again?" Ken placed a steadying hand on her shoulder. "Let's all take a moment." But the damage was done. The calm tea party had detonated into the exact chaos Tracy swore she was avoiding. Amy, heart bruised, knew there was more to the story, because if Tracy was leaving, she wasn't just starting over. She was escaping something far deeper. As the argument dissolved into bitter fragments, Cassie slipped out into the hallway unnoticed. Or so she thought. Amy followed moments later, catching the older woman leaning against the banister, cigarette trembling between her fingers. "What do you know?" Amy asked. Cassie didn't look at her. "Enough." "Then tell me." "Because my mum's about to blow up everything and no one's being honest." Cassie's lips twisted. "You really want the truth, or do you just want someone to blame?" Amy didn't answer. "Not right away." "I think she's scared," Cassie said finally. "Not of leaving. Of staying. There's something she doesn't want to face here. Something that happened before she left for the States." Amy blinked. "What?" Cassie hesitated. "She didn't tell you about the letter, did she?" "What letter?" "From Rob. It came a few days before she flew out." Amy's stomach dropped. Rob, her uncle. The one in prison. The one Tracy never spoke of. "He's up for parole," Cassie murmured. "Wants to reconnect." "She's been spiraling ever since." Amy backed away slowly, mind reeling. That was it. That was what this whole charade was about. Tracy wasn't chasing love or freedom. She was running, from the past, from Rob, from herself. Inside, the sound of raised voices still echoed. Amy turned back toward the door. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The tension in the room lingered like smoke after a fire. Tracy's words hung heavily, and although no one spoke at first, everyone's eyes said what their lips wouldn't: disappointment, disbelief, and something rawer, a sense of being left behind. Amy sat back down, arms crossed tightly over her chest, her breathing shallow but fast. Steve leaned on the edge of the armchair, whiskey forgotten, staring at Tracy like she was a stranger who had walked into his home wearing her face. "So that's it then," he finally muttered. "You pack up your life, toss out the shop, and fly off again like none of this ever mattered." Tracy blinked slowly. "That's not fair." "You know it isn't." "Isn't it?" Cassie cut in, her tone sharper than it had been all afternoon. "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you just set up a farewell tour with tea and crumpets." Ken, ever the diplomat, raised a hand as if to caution them. "Let's not let our emotions cloud." "Cloud what?" Amy snapped. "The fact that my mum's always got one foot out the door." Cassie glanced at Amy, then back at Tracy. "She's got a point." Tracy stood up, shoulders taut. "All right, enough. I didn't do this to be attacked. I did this because I was trying to be honest for once." "You want brutal honesty? Fine. The shop's been dead for months. Footfalls dropped. Sales are down. The supplier in Manchester pulled out. I've been floating it with savings, just to keep the doors open." Steve's mouth parted slightly. "You never said anything." "Because you would have gloated," she snapped. "You always said the shop was a vanity project." "Maybe you were right." Ken's brow furrowed. "Still, selling it. Going back to America. This feels rushed." "Maybe. Or maybe it's clarity. That gallery job, it's not just about romance. It's about starting again, with something that actually excites me. I don't want to die surrounded by old china and bad memories." Amy looked away. "And what about me?" "You'll be fine, Amy." "No. No, I won't. I've been holding everything together while you've been flitting off to God knows where. You know I'm applying for postgrad. You know I'm staying in Weatherfield. And you know I'll always support you. But this is about me. For once, I'm choosing something for myself. That's convenient, Cassie muttered. Must be nice to just drop it all and walk away. Amy stood again, voice trembling with anger. So what happens if I fall apart? If Nan gets sick again? If Steve spirals? Who picks up the pieces this time, Mum? Who stays behind to manage the chaos while you chase your dream job with the art dealer you won't even name? Tracy's voice faltered. This isn't just about him. Oh, so there is a him, Steve interjected, disgust coating every word. His name is Jules, and he offered me a space to live. That's it. No strings. Jules, Amy repeated, voice like stone. Right? Tracy turned toward the window, her face briefly softened by the weak late afternoon light. You all think this is about running away. It's not. I'm walking toward something. There's a difference. Cassie let out a breathy laugh. Tell that to your daughter. Ken stood slowly, folding his newspaper with uncharacteristic finality. We're clearly not going to resolve this in one afternoon. Tracy, if you're set on leaving, then at least have the decency to do it properly. Be honest with Amy. Tell her what this really means. Tracy turned back, eyes rimmed red but unyielding. I already have. Amy whispered, more to herself than anyone else, you always choose yourself. Always. The room fractured, each person retreating into silence or bitterness. Steve retreated into the kitchen, clinking glass echoing like punctuation marks. Ken lowered himself back into his chair, looking older than he had minutes before. Cassie, finally standing, mumbled something about needing air and walked out the front door. Amy remained, staring at the table, at the Victoria sponge nobody touched. The absurdity of it, the carefully laid sandwiches, the lace tablecloth, all in service of a goodbye no one was ready for. I guess the tea party's over, Amy murmured, before walking away, leaving Tracy alone with her cooling tea and a future that now felt less like freedom and more like exile. But beneath it all, Amy's instinct that something more was going on had not left her. Tracy might be escaping, yes, but from what? And why now? That question would linger far longer than the scent of Earl Grey in the room. Because no one, not even Tracy, was quite ready to admit the full truth. Tracy stood alone in the living room long after the others had left. The quiet wrapped around her like a judgment. For the first time in a long time, she wasn't certain. Not about America, not about Jules, not even about herself. All she had was motion, forward, away, and she clung to it like a lifeline. But Weatherfield had a way of pulling people back. That night, Steve returned to collect some things he'd forgotten, and though neither planned to speak, they found themselves in the same room again. You know, he said, not looking at her, I didn't expect much from you anymore. But I thought you'd at least talk to Amy properly. Tracy sighed. I tried. She wasn't listening. You weren't saying anything she needed to hear. And what is that, Steve? That I'm scared. That I feel like I'm suffocating here. That every morning I wake up and wonder if this is all there is. He finally turned to her, his face unreadable. Then say that. To her. Before she builds a wall she won't take down. The next morning, Amy didn't come home. Ken said she'd gone to the library, but hours passed without word. When Tracy finally found her at Victoria Gardens, Amy was curled up on a bench, hoodie pulled tight around her shoulders, eyes red. I knew you'd come, Amy said without looking up. Tracy sat beside her. You were right. There's more to this than the gallery. Jules offered me the job months ago. I turned it down at first. Why now? Because I saw Mum in myself. Waking up bitter, snapping at the world, waiting for something to happen to make it all worthwhile. And I knew I'd end up like her if I stayed. Amy looked away. So you're running so you don't become grandma. I'm running because I'm already halfway there. There was silence, then Amy said, I didn't need you to be perfect. I just needed you to stay. And I didn't know how to stay and still feel like me. Amy leaned her head on her mother's shoulder. Promise me you'll call. Every week. No excuses. Every week, Tracy promised. Back at number 1, Cassie returned, her face pale. She found Ken alone. We need to talk, she said. About Jules. Ken set down his book. What about him? Cassie hesitated. He's not just an art dealer. I've seen him before. Years ago. In Birmingham. He was involved in something shady, money laundering. Ken's brow furrowed. Are you sure? Dead certain. And if Tracy's going to him, we need to know if she's safe. The next day, Cassie called in a favor from an old contact. By evening, the information came in. Jules Weston had changed his name 10 years ago, following an embezzlement scandal in Leeds. Though charges never stuck, his reputation was anything but clean. Cassie took the printouts to Steve, and together they brought them to Tracy. This isn't about sabotaging you, Steve said. It's about protecting you. Tracy stared at the papers, blood draining from her face. He said all that was behind him. Maybe it is, Cassie said. But maybe it isn't. For the first time, Tracy faltered. I need to see him. I need to hear it from him. She booked a ticket that night. 2 days later, Tracy returned, suitcase in hand, face unreadable. Amy met her at the station. You're back. Not permanently. Just not with Jules. He lied. Tracy nodded slowly. Not just to me. To everyone. And I almost gave everything up for him. Amy smiled faintly. Well, I've saved you a spot on the couch. Just don't expect me to make you tea. Weatherfield didn't offer redemption often. But sometimes, when the right truths were told, it gave you a second chance. Tracy wasn't sure what her future held. But this time, she wasn't walking away from it.